What time is it? Say it's time for KP's Video News. KP's Video News. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all.
That's right, it's time for KP's Video News, y'all. And sad to say, but it's a whole another couple of cases, man. I got to talk about black people killed by cops again. And oh man, it's just crazy. It's crazy. So this time you have a Georgia State Patrol trooper charged with the murder, and he's been charged with murder after shooting a black man. And a Georgia State Patrol trooper has been arrested and charged with felony murder after fatally shooting a black man during an attempted traffic stop. Jacob Gordon Thompson, 27, was arrested on Friday in conjunction with the fatal officer-involved shooting in Screven County that occurred on August 7th, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation stated. And Thompson attempted to stop Julian Lewis, 60-year-old man, for a traffic-related offense. When he refused to stop, Thompson gave a brief chase before using a precision intervention technique, sending the car to stop in a ditch, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Thompson then fired one shot, striking Lewis in the face. He was pronounced dead on the scene, and autopsy is being conducted at the GBI crime lab, according to the release. Thompson will be booked into the Screven County Jail. The GBI release said he has been charged with felony murder and aggravated assault and was terminated from the Department of Public Safety. And has not been able to determine if Thompson has an attorney. And the FBI Atlanta Public Affairs Specialist Kevin Rawson stated in an email statement Saturday that they are in contact with local and state authorities. The FBI is aware of the Screven County matter, and we have been in contact with local and state authorities. The FBI is always prepared to investigate whenever information comes to light of a potential federal violation. And Francis Johnson, the attorney representing the Lewis family, issued a statement Friday. And the unprecedented pace of the investigation is a direct result of years of activism on these issues, with the sea change in law enforcement leadership at the top of the GBI. Johnson said this was not business as usual. The GBI and now the FBI, who have launched a separate civil rights investigation, have done what was right at this stage, and they'll rarely get to say that. Georgia, the state of Georgia's NAACP chapter declared a state of emergency in Georgia with respect to the never-ending acts of police violence that regularly and consistently put our communities in danger. The NAACP on Tuesday called for criminal charges to be filed against Thompson and for a civil rights investigation by the United States Department of Justice. I want justice for Julian. He was too good to die as he did. This is one step towards justice, Lewis's widow, Betty Lewis, stated in a statement. And Lewis was remembered at a candlelight vigil in front of Sylvania City Hall. And she said, Betty Lewis stated that her husband was somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's nephew, brother, and husband, and he's gone at the hands of a murderer. And it's just, you know, with all this going on right now, you would think that, the cops out there would try to be a little more, you would think that they would stop with their crazy tactics. However, going on from that story here, now that was in Georgia, now this is in Mississippi. 3 Mississippi police officers charged with the murder of a black man. And they have been charged with killing a black man by body slamming him to the ground and then kicking and punching him. And this happened last year. And they just got arrested. The 3 officer, Desmond Barney, Lincoln Lampley, and Anthony Fox, were indicted this month on charges of second-degree murder in the death of George Robinson, another 60-year-old person. This guy was 62 years old, of Jackson, Mississippi. So that's two older black men, one 60 years old and one 62-year-old. So, I mean, what threat, what real physical threat are two 60-year-old men? And you guys are like in your 20s and 30s. Back to the story. The officers who were members of the Jackson Police Department caused Mr. Robinson's death and injury last year by pulling him from his car, throwing him head first onto the roadway pavement, and then striking and kicking him multiple times in the head and chest, according to the indictment issued by a grand jury in Hinds County, Mississippi. The indictment said the officer's actions evinced a depraved heart regardless of human life. And so Jody E. Owens II, the district attorney of Hinds County, said the officers saw Mr. Robinson sitting in his car, and when they were canvassing a predominantly black neighborhood in Jackson for suspects who had shot and killed a pastor, Anthony Longino, in a botched robbery outside his church hours earlier. The officers, who were also black, approached Mr. Robinson because they believed they had seen him dealing drugs with another person, although that person was never detained, Mr. Owens said. When the officers ordered Mr. Robinson to get out of his car, he was slow to comply, perhaps because he had survived a stroke, Mr. Owens said. According to witness accounts, Mr. Owens said, officers then proceeded to beat Mr. Robinson. Medical reports, including one from the state coroner, showed that Mr. Robinson died of blunt force trauma to the head and of a bleeding brain, the district attorney said. The reports also showed that several of Mr. Robinson's ribs had been broken. And the district attorney also stated a former lawyer at Southern Poverty Law Center said the case was among a number of languishing investigations that he had revived after taking over as district attorney in Jackson, Mississippi in January. Poor, black, it doesn't make a difference, he said. Every life has value, and we have to treat all life the same. The three officers have posted bond and are free awaiting their next court date. Officer Lampley still works for the Jackson Police Department, although he has been placed on desk duty, according to his lawyer, Francis Springer. And we feel really confident once we're able to exhibit the evidence we have, these officers are going to be vindicated. Mr. Springer said, after Mr. Robinson's death, Officer Barney, 31 years old, and Fox, 35, were hired by the police department in the nearby city of Clinton, Mississippi. According to Phil Fisher, a mayor of Clinton, he said both had been assigned other duties within the department until this matter is resolved. Mr. Fisher said the Clinton Police Department hired the officers after the Jackson Department's Internal Affairs Division cleared them of wrongdoing, and multiple agencies looked into the incident and advised that no criminal conduct occurred. And they claim that they stand behind these two officers that moved from one city to the other, to a whole other city, and believe they would be exonerated. Paul Luckett, a lawyer for Officer Fox, said that his client was innocent and we are preparing to mount a vigorous defense. Michael Corey, a lawyer for Officer Barney, said the three officers believe there's a lot more to the story and they're looking forward to their chance to be fully vindicated. And Dennis Sweet, a lawyer who represents Mr. Robinson's family, said the indictment was one place where it looks like we're trying to get some justice for African Americans who were brutally beaten by police officers. It's been 19 months, he said, but at least it's getting done. The charges came amid intense scrutiny of police brutality after the May killing of George Floyd in custody of Minneapolis police. And Mr. Robinson's family has filed a civil suit against the city of Jackson, the three police officers, and the American Medical Response Incorporated, the ambulance company that treated Mr. Robinson at the scene and released him. Hours after Mr. Robinson was released, his girlfriend noticed him losing consciousness and called another ambulance. the lawyer's family said, and he died at the hospital that night. And they didn't even take, the ambulance people looked at him and said, "Oh, you okay?" and let him, and didn't even take him to the hospital to get checked. And the suit filed, and it claims that Mr. Robinson was wrongfully killed through an excessive, unreasonable, and unjustifiable force, that he was denied the right to due process when he was seized from his car, according to court records. It's pretty egregious, said Mr. Sweet, whose son, Dennis Sweet, the fourth, also represents the Robinson family. Mr. Robinson had blunt force trauma to the head. He had fractured ribs, and we have eyewitnesses. It was in front of his home on Jones Street. And Mr. Sweet also said his firm also represents the family of another black man, Mario Clark, who died after an encounter with the Jackson police. We've seen a common practice in this police department, and it seems to be a majority of the time in poor black communities, he said. You see it a lot in South Jackson and West Jackson, Mississippi. And Choke Lumumba, the mayor of Jackson, said on Friday that his administration was committed to ensuring that Jacksonians have an accountable police department. Mr. Lumumba said the city adopted a policy in October 2018 of turning over all cases of people who died in the custody of the Jackson police to the district attorney for a grand jury review. The Hinds County grand jury indictments issued today begin another phase of the process, Mr. Lumumba said. In the spirit of transparency and the admission and the administration will continue to monitor the situation and provide information to the public throughout each phase. And we ask that you keep all those affected by this tragedy in your prayers. So that's two people that got killed by cops, one in Mississippi, one in Georgia, and now on to another story in Georgia, which was a total complete idiot in the state of Georgia. And he got a Georgia state representative lost his committee chairmanship after he denigrated the late John Lewis on a radio show. Tommy Benton, 70 years old, incorrectly said that John Lewis hadn't done anything since he was beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I've never read of a significant piece of legislation that was passed with his name on it, Benton said. John Lewis, his only claim to fame was that he got conked on the head at the Pettus Bridge, and he milked that for 50 years. Georgia's House Speaker, federal Republican David Ralston, said that he had no choice but to demote Benton from the House Retirement Committee. The comments made by Representative Benton are offensive and disgusting, Ralston said in a statement. These comments do not reflect the values of the views of the House Majority Caucus, and I can neither condone nor ignore such hurtful remarks. Benton had only been re-promoted last year, having lost the major chairmanship in 2017 for sending an article to two other lawmakers that slavery was not the cause of the Civil War. Also, in 2016, said the Ku Klux Klan wasn't actually that bad. Wow, and this guy's still in office. Benton has represented Georgia's 31st district, about 60 miles northeast of Atlanta, since 2005. So for 15 years, this clown has been there. And Lewis, whose public beating at the age of 25 led to the passage, John Lewis, whose public beating at the age of 25 led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act, and a long career in the U.S. House of Representatives, died last month. And we all saw that they had a magnificent celebration of life for him. And he's a major civil rights figure, that has done major things for civil rights over the years. So I don't know what this clown Benton was talking about, or what he's even thinking about, or where, it's just like you got people sometimes that try to use other people to get their names in the news, and this guy here needs to be removed, totally removed, and banned from ever holding office ever again. And not only in the state of Georgia, but in the whole United States. What a complete clown. And that complete clown His name is Tommy Benton in the state of Georgia, a complete clown. So, you know,
KP's Video
that's
News.
where we are today, folks.
It's KP's Video News, y'all.
Peace.